Hi everybody, Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum One Greater Atlanta Realtors, and today's contract question has to do with when does a listing have to be listed in FMLS? Now, this information could apply to another MLS service to which you belong, but I'm specifically talking about FMLS. This is the end of November 2021. And if you have seen any of my previous videos on this topic, I was incorrect. I was wrong, but now I have the correct information. So I want to thank FMLS for correcting me, as well as doing a little bit different type of further in-depth research from some agent questions. So the issue comes down to, in this fast market where sellers are selling properties extremely quickly before the agent has the chance to put them in FMLS, do they have to go into FMLS? When do they have to go to FMLS? Is FMLS due a fee? Well, I've got the scoop. The scoop is, if a public seller signs an exclusive seller brokerage agreement, it used to be called exclusive right to sell, but exclusive seller brokerage agreement, and if your brokerage is a member of FMLS, and if the property is in an FMLS compulsory area, then that data belongs to FMLS, meaning it must be listed in FMLS, and FMLS is due a fee, regardless of when you get a contract on it. So let's go in this. Then the question comes in, well, what's all this about the marketing commencement date? That's listed in the GAR seller brokerage agreement, and it's listed in the FMLS rules. Again, this information could also apply to another MLS, but I'm specifically talking about FMLS. So let's go through this a little more in depth so that you have a full understanding of why I'm saying what I'm saying. So again, the biggest question comes into, I sign a seller signs a listing agreement or exclusive seller brokerage agreement. I get a contract right away. Does it have to go into FMLS? So the issue is, well, let me go through this. Per FMLS's rule number 3 about listing of properties, once an exclusive seller brokerage agreement is signed, it is required to be entered into the FMLS database within 2 days. The timetable changes to 1 business day if the marketing commencement date is the same date as the date the brokerage agreement is signed. Let me read through the FMLS rule, and then let me go through it so you have a better understanding, clear understanding, so there's no confusion. FMLS Rule 3 says, all improved and unimproved real estate, unimproved means land with no property on it, no structure on it. So all improved and unimproved real estate listed for sale under, and they say exclusive right to sell. GAR has changed their verbiage to exclusive seller brokerage agreement, but generally speaking, exclusive right to sell contract with a principal member. A principal member means a brokerage who belongs to FMLS. So all improved and unimproved real estate listed for sale under an exclusive right to sell contract with a principal member must be listed in FMLS and entered into the FMLS database within 48 hours after the listing is signed by the owner. The exceptions are weekends, federal holidays, and postal holidays. Then it goes on to say, see rules 3.4 and 3.5 below for exceptions. I'll get to those in a minute. Goes on to say, within 1, so those are calendar days, except for weekends. Basically, they're business days, but weekends and holidays don't count. Within 1 business day of marketing a property to the public, the listing broker must submit the listing to the MLS for cooperation with other MLS participants. I'll get to a better definition of that in just a minute. Marketing and advertising include, but is not limited to, any information about the property, its availability for sale, displayed on any signs, websites, social media, brokerage or franchise operated websites, communication, verbal or written, multi-brokerage franchise listings, sharing networks, flyers, rent materials, etc., available to the public or for open houses or showings. All FMLS listings are required to be placed in the proper class, geographic location, goes on to say. Now, here, 3.4, here are the exceptions. Subject to Rule 3.5, which I'll get to in a minute, the following types of improved or unimproved real estate listed under an exclusive right to sell contract with the principal member may be, but are not required to be put into FMLS. Property located outside of the compulsory area, commercial or industrial property, new construction from the date of starting until the interior has been sheetrocked. Once it's been sheetrocked, if it's not under contract, it's required to go in FMLS. And mobile homes, if and only if the real property on which the mobile home is situated is included in the listing, and residential detached or residential attached dwellings to be built on existing lot and land. Then 3.5 says, any other provision to these rules notwithstanding, the following properties cannot be listed in FMLS. Any property not listed under an exclusive right to sell contract with the principal member, any property listed with the principal member other than the exclusive right to sell, which is the same thing, mobile home, time sharing, so forth and so on. So let me try to clarify for you what all this means. When a public seller signs a listing agreement with a broker, that is what creates the client relationship. From that point forward, the broker and the agent can advise the seller on pricing strategies, closing cost strategies, what they need to do to put the property, show it in its best light to get the most amount of money, repairs, staging, so forth and so on. That's all is information that an agent may share with a client. So you create the client relationship by signing the listing agreement or the seller brokerage agreement. In the brokerage agreement itself, let me point that out to you. That is under GAR, it is GAR F101 called the exclusive seller brokerage agreement. And under paragraph A2, it has, this is new as of 2021, it says the price, you list in the price, the term of the agreement shall begin on this date. And you fill in a date, and that's called the starting date. And made available to the public on the date of blank. And that's now called the marketing commencement date. And then shall continue through the date of, and it has an ending date. So when we go to paragraph B2, obviously the first date that you sign, that is what starts the client relationship. That's the date that the client relationship starts. Under the explanatory paragraph in the GAR contract, it says multiple listing service. Broker agrees to file this agreement with the above referenced multiple listing service within 1 business day of the marketing commencement date, which shall be the date the property is made available to the public. And then it goes on to describe what that means. But let me explain a little more. So the date this public seller signs the listing agreement or seller brokerage agreement, that's the date that starts the client relationship. You can start to advise, guide, go through everything, so forth and so on. The marketing commencement, and that's the date within 2 days, it must go in FMLS. Now, the marketing commencement date, that does not determine when the listing goes into FMLS. That just determines the status that the listing is initially labeled with in FMLS. So again, once an exclusive seller listing agreement is signed, you have 2 business days to put it in FMLS. If the marketing commencement date is the same date as the start date, then the listing must go in FMLS within 1 business day with the status of active. If the marketing commencement date is later than the start date, Then the listing must go in FMLS within 2 business days of the start date, but the label is coming soon. It can only be in a coming soon status for 21 days. If the marketing commencement date is longer than the 21 days from the start date, then the listing must go into FMLS within 2 business days of the start date, but the status is, there's a new status FMLS has called a registered listing. So let's go through the FMLS stati. An active listing status, it's available for showing to anyone. It gets syndicated to the web, and it begins days on market, and data is available to appraisers. A coming soon status does not syndicate to the web, does not add to your days on market for that listing, automatically turns to active after 21 days if you have not already entered in an earlier time frame. Only information about the property is available via FMLS information on the listing report and only to other members of FMLS. Coming soon status may not be shown to anyone, including your own prospects. When it says made available to other FMLS members, that just means via the information they can read on FMLS. That does not mean they can see it. It cannot be shown under a coming soon status. A registered listing status, that's only for a very specific circumstance when the exclusive right to sell listing has been signed, so the start date starts now, but they're not actually going to market it for over 21 days, which is the limit of the coming soon. It does not syndicate to the World Wide Web. It does not accumulate days on market. And if you start marketing a property in the capacity of a registered listing, it will have to be moved from registered listing to either coming soon or active within 1 business day to stay compliant with FMLS. Registered listings may only be seen by the listing agent, the listing broker, and the FMLS staff. So what does all this mean? What's the bottom line? The bottom line is, once you have signed an exclusive seller brokerage agreement, it creates the client relationship with the public seller and must go into FMLS within 2 days. And you must pay an FMLS fee upon closing. If the brokerage is a member of FMLS, if the property is in an FMLS compulsory area. Marketing commencement date. That only determines the status that the listing appears in FMLS. If it's simultaneous with the date the brokerage agreement is signed, it must go in FMLS as active and within 1 business day of the date. If the marketing commencement date is later than the brokerage agreement is signed, must go in FMLS as coming soon, and then it gets switched to active within 1 business day of this marketing commencement date. If the marketing commencement date is going to be more than 21 days than the start date or the date the brokerage agreement is signed, it must go in FMLS as a registered listing, and then it gets switched to coming soon for information just for FMLS members on paper, or as active, ready to be shown within 1 day of marketing. Also, if you are a member of both FMLS and GAMLS, then any listing and all listings that are in FMLS must also be entered into GAMLS. Hope this contract tip helped you out. It is a clarification from previous videos. So if you have watched previous videos from me regarding coming soon, this is a change from that, and this clarifies what that means. Thank you guys so much for watching. Dana Sparks, broker of Maximum 1 Greater Atlanta Realtors, satisfying your needs with service, innovation, and education.